Twins separated at birth during World War II uncover their strange past. Wars are true tragedies, and not only for the combatants. Death, hunger, disease, poverty, and separation are the consequences faced by millions of innocents caught in the crossfire. Only the lucky ones get to rebuild and reunite, however many years later. Two of these lucky ones were Polish twins George and Lucian, who went many years without knowing of the other's existence. It was only through a huge twist of fate, or perhaps even a miracle, that they could reunite. What they didn't prepare for, though, was the story of how they were torn apart to begin with.
Before we begin, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos.
If you saw twin brothers Lucian and George together at a restaurant, you'd think they'd always been by each other's side because of how natural and deep their bond was. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, as these brothers were strangers for years. In September of 2015, the men were waiting to lock eyes for the very first time at the Warsaw Airport in Poland. "I hope that from now on we'll always be close together. I cannot wait to hug him," George said. He'd only found out about Lucian's existence a few weeks prior. When their past was finally revealed, they learned that their mother spent her pregnancy in a German work camp during World War II. She feared for her own life and for her unborn children's, worried they'd grow up among death and destruction. Luckily, the war ended in 1945, when she was just entering her second trimester. She gave birth as a free woman, but she was weakened and ill after her time in the camp. By some miracle, though, both of her sons survived. Since she couldn't care for them at the time, the twins were placed in a convent while their mother regained her strengths. Not long after, workers of the Red Cross took the boys back to Poland, far away from the aftermath of the war and their mom. There, the newborn infants needed a home, so the Red Cross arranged for them to be adopted. However, almost every family was impoverished by the war, and no one could afford to take in two babies. There was only one option left. The twins were separated and adopted by entirely different families before they were old enough to protest. At first, they cried for weeks on end, but eventually, they forgot the other even existed. They were now George Skrzynicki and Lucian Poznański, and they were each an only child. It wasn't until Lucian was drafted into the Polish army that his new mother told him the truth about his identity. He didn't even know he was adopted at that time, let alone that his biological family was still alive. At age 17, George too found out he was adopted when he found the papers in his family home. Since his relationship with his new parents was already troubled, this was the final straw. He packed what he had and took off for California, USA, where he came of age. Meanwhile, Lucian got married after serving his country and raised a family in Poland. He lived a happy life, but something was always nagging at him. He had a feeling he had a twin brother out there, and it never really went away. Part of the work done by the Red Cross organization is to help people find lost family members, and since they were responsible for the boys all those years ago, they helped them reunite at the age of 69. "When I found out, I just couldn't stop crying," George said. On September 14, 2015, George finally arrived in Warsaw to hug Lucian and never let him go. "It is the first time I've ever felt this kind of happiness," Lucian said. "I didn't expect this at all. There were times when I thought I was dreaming." Once the two had gotten a chance to catch up, they visited the Warsaw Rising Museum, which honors those who resisted the Nazis during the war. It was to be another emotional day, but the brothers agreed they wanted to know more about their history. Still, they had another plan in mind. Not only had the Red Cross done everything in their power to bring George and Lucian together again, but they even dug through paperwork for weeks to find any information about their parents. And by some miracle, they found what they were looking for. According to an old hospital document about the birth of the boys, their father was a soldier from the US military. He had long since passed away, but the twins were amazed by how their lives turned out so similarly. One joined the army and the other moved to America. Along with the paperwork were their birth certificates, which revealed their mother was an unmarried Catholic woman by the name of Elizabeth Jankowska, and she lived in Grebenstein, Germany. The names of the boys were left blank, though. The sad reality was Elizabeth never meant for her sons to be given up for adoption. She simply thought they would be waiting for her until she recovered from her illness. When she realized what had happened, she tried to get them back, but it was too late. She died 6 years later. Nobody knows exactly how many families were torn apart by death or separation during that time, so the fact that these brothers even found each other is extraordinary. Wars are terrible things, George said. We have wars going on right now around the world with people dying and getting misplaced, and it's a tragedy. Not only do people suffer during a war, but even later generations suffer in an emotional way long after it's over, George continued. While they certainly have a special place in their hearts for Holocaust survivors, they feel for children across the globe who face the effects of war. George and Lucian prayed that their story might give others hope and raise awareness about displaced children everywhere. As for themselves, they simply want to make up for the lost time. Brothers forever, they said. It was the surprise of their lives, though reunions like this always come with some complications. For two much younger men, finding out about lost family ties was a pleasure, though it was also more complicated than anyone could have predicted. Please share this with your friends and family.